Good morning, my beautiful, sexy individuals. It's a tremendous day. And today I want to talk about how to stop overthinking. So we're going to start out with the very normal, physical, practical aspect of it. Just in case you've stumbled across this video and you're not into manifestation or spirituality or anything like that. I still want to give you guys something and then we'll go off the rails. So, if you're an overthinker, I've been an overthinker, so I understand. It can be crippling. It's like self-torture. It feels like putting yourself in a prison of your own thoughts, and you can't escape because all you know how to do is think yourself out of the prison, but you can't think yourself out of the prison because the prison is made of thoughts. It's trying to fight fire with fire. So I deal with a lot of overthink. I think probably most people are overthinkers these days, certainly creatives. So I deal with a lot of overthinkers in my day job. I teach music. So especially the singers, singing's very vulnerable. It's scary because it's like your own unique voice. It's you, it's pure you. It's one of the purest forms of expression. And there's no barrier, right? So if you're playing guitar and you stuff up, it's like, it was the guitar. Or, I haven't learned to do that yet or whatever. But if you stuff up with your voice, there's no excuse, it's just you. And of course, I teach from a place of zero judgment, and my students know that. But I got a lot of overthinkers. So I always ask them, what's the opposite of thinking? And without fail, every time, every one of them says, not thinking. No, the opposite of thinking is feeling. Now, this isn't even the airy, fairy, touchy-feely, warm and fuzzy part of the video yet, right? So if that kind of grates against you, I want you to just take a second, take a breath, and hear me out. We have the capacity for great emotion, to feel. Just in a general sense, we understand what it feels like to feel. It's an important part of what we are, of the human experience, but it gets so neglected. It's a war crime, what we've done to the concept of feeling. And it's not just about emotions, but it's a good indicator for the way we think about feeling, right? I think as a society, especially in the West, and not just the West, but I'm not going to speak about what I don't necessarily know, but I think just like across the globe, we praise knowing, we praise knowledge, like left brain analytical knowledge, higher than anything else. And it makes sense because it is quantifiable. We can put it on a page and we go, well, there it is. Right? But how do you measure feeling? It's difficult and it's esoteric and weird and floaty and wibbly wobbly. But it is no less important. So depending on how you want to think about the brain, if we want to really simplify it and go left brain, right brain, analytical, organizational, creative, emotional, that's one thing. So we could say that feeling is half of the brain, right? But even if we want to go deeper into other theories of the brain, and you know what, we should probably, give me a second. I'm curious and I want to incorporate this into the video. The limbic system. Okay, so in both sides of the thalamus, right? Interesting. Look, I'm not a brain surgeon by any stretch of the imagination. I was just curious. So apparently, I'd have to look into this more, but apparently it has something to do with the thalamus, the whole emotional part, but it's in the center of the brain, which seems like it would be important. But even just conceptually, we've got left brain, right brain, and then if we want to look at some other models, like something I'm familiar with is a HBDI model of preferential thinking, which is like analytical, organizational, creative, and emotional. So if we want to think like purely conceptually here, emotions, feeling takes up either half or a full quarter of the brain. You know, it's a big chunk. It's important is what I'm trying to get at, right? I want to get to the point where we can all agree that feeling is important. So why aren't we doing it? All right, so what I want to present to you, and I've done it, I've proven at least for myself that it can work. What I want to present to you is that instead of thinking through everything, don't want to demonize analytical thought. It's just as much part of us as the emotional, creative, whatever. But we spend too much time there. So instead of thinking through our problems, I want you to play around with the idea of feeling through your problems. And I can tell you, as a chronic overthinker, not so much anymore because I've practiced this, but as a chronic overthinker in the past, this has been revolutionary for me. Because like I said, trying to think your way out of the mental prison is fighting fire with fire. It doesn't work. We need to fight fire with water. And water is the emotions. Then we get into alchemy and classical elements, and it makes perfect sense. It matches up, right? The subconscious emotions were represented often by water. Yeah. So how do we do it? So if you were completely not at all used to feeling something out, right? I'm not talking about using your gut necessarily. It could be part of it, but I don't think that's where it sits. I think that's like an instinct thing, the gut. So if you're completely lost, if I go, I want you to feel through your problems, and you're like, dude, what? How the shit do I do that? All right, start with this. Feel this. All right, this is not analytical. You're not worrying about how do I do this. You're just feeling. I want you to really focus on the feeling, not the action. You're not going, well, I need to rub my hands together because this guy said so. No. You're rubbing your hands together and you're paying attention to what it feels like on your skin, through your arms, throughout your body. Now, this is not the end goal. I'm not talking about physical touch, the sensation of touch. I'm talking about the full body experience. And not just emotions either, it's the full thing. It's like when you lose yourself to dance. Daft Punk, great song. What does that feel like? Now, I understand if you're not used to dancing, I've been there myself. Like you're maybe being conscious of the moves and like maybe feeling self-conscious about how your body is moving. But when you actually lose yourself to it, when you enter flow state, with anything really, it's not analytical. You're feeling your way through. You're accessing a part of yourself that already knows. So that's what I want you to practice. Now let's get weird. Let's get super weird. So, not super weird. So let's talk about manifestation. Right? This is where we can manifest from. This is the knowing. Remember, I always say, you have to know. Belief is not my preferred word. You have to know. You have to be certain. And that certainty comes from the body, from within, from the heart. We analyze our language, the heart of the problem. Follow your heart. Why is that? Where does that come from? Like I always say, our idioms, our cliches, they are what they are for a reason. Often there is truth in them. So then if we connect this to like the tree of life in Kabbalah, which I find fascinating. If you match up each level, not each sphere, but each level to the energy rays in the body, also known as chakras, they match up perfectly. And what's fascinating is a lot of the steps have an option, right? Which matches up with the way polarity is talked about in The Law of One and the Ra Contact, one of my favorite books, right? So it's got like the root, you go up a step, then you got a choice, right? Thought or emotion. And above where the heart center would be, we have another choice and another choice. But let's come back to the heart center. That's the important part. The heart center doesn't have a choice, right? On the tree of life, it goes 1, 2, boom, heart center. No choice. Because it's undivided, it's unpolarized. It's like an energy source. It's the engine. And it is connected with, oh man, I love it when this shit lines up. It's connected with the sun, astrologically speaking. So if we apply, I don't think it's not traditionally done, but there are models where astrology is connected to the tree of life. So it's like Earth, Moon, Mercury, Venus, or it could be the other way around for you. I don't know if the camera's going to flip it. And then the sun. The sun is the center. And then we look at the symbol for the sun, and it's a circle with a little point in the middle, because that's it. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes. It's a single point. It's unified, unpolarized. Certainty. Knowing. Everything, every place, every possibility, and every time existing in a single point. 0 point energy. So, if you want to take it further, yes, if you're completely unused to feeling your way through things, start with this. Just feel this, feel the moment. Come back to here. Don't worry about the past. Don't get lost in the future. Now is the only truth. And then you can start to feel your emotions. Good, bad, and ugly, it doesn't matter. Remember, emotional maturity, despite what we've been taught, is not suppressing your emotions. It's not even necessarily controlling your emotions. It's being the master of your emotions. So it's not about demonizing any particular emotion, like anger, for example. Anger, a lot of the time, is not helpful. But if you are able to master your anger, then in times of need, if you need to physically defend yourself, then you can conjure anger to help you. See what I'm getting at? So we don't want to destroy the negative emotions, we want to master them. We want to be in control of them so that they do not control us. That is what emotional maturity is. And like I've said, like for the past week or two, depending on the video schedule, I've been banging on about this. Don't fight the pain, go through it, and the pain will dissipate and you will learn your lesson. So start with this, feel the moment, then feel your emotions, feel it in your body. And then feel that center point, right in the heart. Not the physical heart, the spiritual heart, right in the dead center. You'll know where it is. Feel that point, the sun symbol, right? Remember, even science is catching on to this, physical science. So the brain produces an electromagnetic field, but the heart produces a bigger one. Why would it do that? Why would it need to do that? We know that we now know that we can feel each other's emotions without words, without even touching each other, because we can feel people's hearts. So then when does the mind come back into this? Because the mind directs your intent to use your heart. So they come together in the end. They're both useful. They're both needed. Two sides of the same coin. Balance, as all things should be. All right. As always, take what resonates and discard the rest.